He joins us again this morning, and here's the best news of all. Not only will we be enjoying a fine cigar, EJ Antoni, but we're also going to enjoy a fine cigar as we celebrate your promotion, my man. Congratulations and good morning.
Chris, it's very, very kind of you. Thank you. And I am absolutely looking forward to this. It's going to be a great, great evening. There's going to be a ton of stuff to discuss. Obviously, like you said, economy is top of mind. It's on everybody's but it's on everybody's thoughts these days, right? This was really the reason that Trump, I think, got across the finish line in November, was the fact that we're in a cost of living crisis and we have to fix it, period. There's no way this can continue to go on.
Now, you're being modest. Don't bury the lead. You have now been named the Heritage Foundation's Chief Economist. That just came out yesterday. That is a big deal. Heritage is a heritage organization. And to be named their chief economic thinker, my man, that's a big deal. So we're going to have a celebration in your honor coming up. Get your tickets at 990theanswer.com right now because they're going to go. We're going to have the chief economist from Heritage as our Cigar Night guest, June 26th. 990theanswer.com to get yours. So congratulations, EJ.
Well, thank you, Chris, very much. You were making me think as you were talking about 990 being your flagship, how Heritage really for the last 50 years has been the flagship, but of the conservative movement. So, to get this opportunity on that flagship, on that battleship, it really is quite an honor, and I'm very humbled by it. I'm very, very grateful.
Well, it's why we lean on you, because you are one of the best in this game. And so let's start with this announcement. I know you posted it on X yesterday. International Trade Court. Got to confess, didn't even know it was a thing. But here came 3 new judges saying Trump can't constitutionally levy tariffs. What do you know about it constitutionally? And furthermore, here's my follow-up question. What exactly do they intend to do about the tariff revenue we've already taken in and spent? The floor is yours.
Great questions, Chris. In terms of the water under the bridge, right, the revenue that's already been collected, actually very little of it was at the higher rates. Most of the huge surge in tariff revenue that we saw in the month of April, for example, was simply people trying to front-run tariffs. In other words, get goods into the country before those higher tariff rates take effect. And so it wasn't an effect of higher tax rates, it was an effect of a broader tax base that caused that revenue to increase so much. So that means that there really wasn't actually that much subject to the higher rates. But the other point is that what the courts typically do, whether it's the Supreme Court or a lower court in these instances, is when it's essentially too difficult to disentangle this stuff, they say, all right, spilt milk under the bridge, we're not going to try to correct for that. It is what it is. But going forward, it's not going to happen anymore. And when we look at this court, for example, we see it was a unanimous decision by 3 different judges. One was appointed by Trump in his first term. There was an Obama appointee. There was a Reagan appointee. So it's not as if this is another rogue leftist court. And frankly, I think their arguments do have some credibility. Look, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I can't tell you definitively if they made the right decision or the wrong decision. But reading through that opinion, it does make sense. You can see the arguments from both sides. All that to say, Chris, in Trump's first term, he used different essentially powers, different executive authority to implement the tariffs. It's unclear why exactly they used IEEPA this time around, and that's what the courts ruled was unconstitutional. They made no ruling, however, on the other mechanisms that Trump can still use and which he did use in the past to implement these tariffs. So by no means is this the final word in this whole tariff fight. And the other really important thing is that this ruling can be appealed to the Supreme Court. That would be the next step here if the administration still wants to go down the route, again, of using this IEEPA mechanism. So by no means is this the final word.
Well, I mean, here's what I know. The American people understand, as you just led off in your comments, we're in a mess, and Donald Trump has a blueprint to try to fix it, and he seems to be the only one serious about trying to fix it, and judges at every turn have tried to stymie the agenda. And so, the judicial wing of this country's institutions seem to be foursquare against Trump at every move on every front. And I hate it if the Supreme Court doesn't come forward and do something about this, if it's not already too late. this country's hostility and mistrust toward the judicial branch of our government it's building, it's bubbling, if it hasn't already bubbled over. It's a bad situation.
Oh, certainly, Chris. And it's clear now that a lot of these, the rogue prosecutors, the leftist judges, all these people just need to be simply removed from office. Now, I'm not saying that's the case here with these three judges, but rather the cases where essentially the judges are making these blatantly unconstitutional calls where they're saying the president all of a sudden no longer has the executive authority, which the Constitution clearly grants him. That's obviously problematic. But I do want to point out, it's not as if every time the courts curb executive authority under Trump, it's a bad thing, right? They did that routinely under Biden. Look at what happened with student loan forgiveness, for example, where Biden was trying to use taxpayer dollars to essentially buy votes by bailing out student loan borrowers unconstitutionally. It was a very, very good thing when that executive authority was curbed by the Supreme Court. So I don't want to go down this rabbit hole here of saying every time a court rules against Trump, then the court is automatically in the wrong. Let's look at it on a case-by-case basis. Look, at the end of the day, I'm about principles. I'm about doing what works, not about any individual, not about any political party.
$9.4 billion. The White House has signaled yesterday, they hear you. Mike Johnson has signaled, we hear you. We're going to deal with Doge cuts. The White House is sending in what's called a rescission package, $9.4 billion in Doge cuts, they announced yesterday. Drop in the bucket, EJ?
Oh, it certainly is a drop in the bucket. Look, much, much more needs to be done here. Now, is it good that we're codifying at least some of the Doge cuts? Absolutely. In the same way that it's good that the House bill essentially had some cuts to fraud in Medicaid. That was a very good thing. Did it go far enough? Absolutely not. So, unfortunately, this is not the time, Chris, for half measures. If you look at what we've done to the federal budget over the last what the overall state of federal finances is, this is not a time where we can where we can fight these battles where we're only going to gain inches. We need to gain yards and miles because we are so far behind at this point.
Yeah, these rescission cuts are going to be a fascinating thing to watch. As much as the tax cuts being codified permanently are important, they're important to Trump. They're important to Trump's financial plan for the country. I know you support them. These rescission cuts are going to be huge. We have lots to discuss, and we'll probably be back before we make it to Philadelphia, but I cannot wait to see you in person, EJ, to congratulate you, to light up a fine cigar. By the way, here's what they get. Not only access to you and brilliant questions undoubtedly going to be volleyed to you so you can sit and ask them. We're going to supply 3 premium cigars with your ticket purchase, as well as an hors d'oeuvre buffet. We'll purchase your first drink on us as well. It's going to be a night of dazzling conversation with the new Chief Economist of the Heritage Foundation in Philadelphia at the Cigar Republic. 990theanswer.com to get your tickets. EJ Antoni, I can't wait to see you there, my man.
Hey, Chris, my pleasure. Can't wait to see you too.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.